All right. It's 2:30, 2:32 or 2:33 now. Welcome, everyone. And we don't have a lot of time, and I've got a lot of material, so I'm going to have to toggle through a few things very quickly. My name is Akinyoni. I'm not going to go through all these bullets that you've got in here, but I'd just like to let you all know that I represent a company called FTEX Group as a CEO and co-founder / managing partner. And we focus a lot on project strategy, project governance. And we all know that governance has three basic steps, or legs rather: risk management, compliance, and assurance. And then under assurance, that's where due diligence sits. We also focus on supporting owners' teams in executing their project. We independently peer review project or a portfolio of projects. And then, of course, we do some what we prefer to call human development. Some people call it personal development. But we leave personal development to individuals while we help them to be better. And something you may not know about me, I know some people don't like to hear it, is that I'm a 10,000 steps per day guy. Yeah, and I've done that every blessed day since December 26, 2019, up till last night. Rain or shine. Today, I'm already close to 6,000 steps. And I know once I'm 6,000 steps now, I will do my 10,000 steps today. So I used to exercise a lot, but these days that I don't exercise that intensely, regularly anymore, I make sure that if I could go to the gym 3 days a week, I must make sure that every calendar day I take 10,000 steps. And there's a framework behind that, but I'm not going to bore you with that. If you want to know a lot more about me, just go to akinyoni.com or my LinkedIn page there or the business site. But akinyoni.com is the easiest one. You'll get a lot of information there, even about my books. Today, we're talking about the trust capital of Megaprojects. Let me begin with a confession, especially something very important based on my experience on projects. Capital projects don't fail just because the sponsoring organization maybe doesn't have enough money or the schedule is too tight. The failure starts with people. Once you get the people process right, even a project that is derailing, the right people process will bring it back on track. It may cost you a little bit more. That's why I actually won a global award for 3 fundamental skill sets that I've got, which is people, planning, and performance. And in that order, I'm a lifelong leadership student, and I focus on that for a reason. My background is in mechanical engineering and, of course, advanced degree in project management. Project is all I've done all my life in all continents of the world except Antarctica. Now, today, I really like us to explore what I call the currency that doesn't show up on KPIs, the currency that doesn't show up on dashboards, and that currency is called trust. Think about that for a moment. That currency is called trust. But before I go too far on that, I'd really like to tell you about a story. I call it the story of the young African girl. This girl was born in an environment where there was no infrastructure, no power, no running water, no good roads, no clinics. In fact, when she was born, every male child that her parent gave birth to died when she was born. When she was born, she was sicker than the sicker male child that died. Therefore, she was born without hope. She was born a hopeless baby. got so good. 7 days into her birth, she survived 1 week. Everybody was so happy. Wow. Even people that died before her, they weren't as sick as her, and they didn't even survive 1 week. 1 week became 1 month. 1 month became 10 years. Unfortunately, when she was 10, her mother passed away. This young African girl today has gone on to become speaker, advisors, executive. She has done a lot of things for herself to impact her world for good. But when her mother passed away at age 10, one village headmaster called her aside and gave her 4 counsels. And here are the counsels, real quick. The man told her, young lady, believe in yourself and stay focused. To her, that meant that she should trust herself and stay focused. This is what I need, who I need to be, and I'm just going to work on becoming that. Number 2, in the interest of time, look beyond your now. You are experiencing a lot of pains right now. Things are not going your way, but look beyond now. Don't lose your head in the moment. Number 3, embrace gratitude attitude. Because many a times we find ourselves in situations where we think that the whole world is crumbling on us. And we lose sight of the fact that there are actually great things happening in our lives at that point in time. I'm going somewhere. And the last but not the least of the counsel, become a value source. Be a person of value. Focus on value in all that you do, and you'll be better. This young lady took all these counsels, the 4 counsels to heart, and that was actually what helped her. Did well in school, whether it's elementary school, high school, university, got all kinds of scholarships. She's doing great now here in the US, actually. From that remote African village, she's doing so well right now in the US. Everything that I've told you in that story is true, except one factor. That young African girl was actually a young African boy, and that boy was me. Why did I take you through that story? It's exact same thing with projects. Exact same thing. And I can draw parallels. Today, I'm not here to tell you about value management system, how to run Primavera. I know we have gurus here. You can even do those things better than I can. I've been there. I'm very close to probably about 38, 39 years in the industry today. Having done all kinds of mega projects that you can think of. Oil, gas, LNG, mining, infrastructure across continents. But one thing is very true. One thing is consistent in everything that I've been able to do in my entire career is trust. When I tell him, this is what I'm going to deliver to you tomorrow, I will do everything. I may not sleep, don't deny, but I will make sure I deliver that. He may not even trust me with that one scenario, but when I do that over and over again, it will begin to trust me. I don't need to try to persuade them to trust me. I don't know who you are as a project professional. This is probably not what you came for in a mega project presentation session. But if we can look at all these fundamentals and bring these fundamentals to our project space, we actually will have the opportunity to deliver successful mega projects repeatedly. Trust, vitally important in all that we do. And I just want to encourage you all today to create an opportunity. And don't get me wrong, the example I gave earlier of me telling him that I'm going to deliver something tomorrow. Look, life happens to all of us. But when it does, don't wait until the 12th hour to let him know that life is happening to you. What are you going to do to make sure you manage what you are doing such that you know about what's going to happen tomorrow, today, as quickly as possible? In fact, people ask me that question at work. They say, "Akin, what do you actually do?" There are two ways I answer that question. I say I'm one guy that the business has positioned in a role to tell the leaders about tomorrow, today. And that's what we call forecasting. As a project controller, you are not an accountant. You need to position yourself to be able to tell your leaders tomorrow, today. Don't you want trust? You want them to believe you? It doesn't mean that when tomorrow pops up, that everything that you told them yesterday is going to eventuate. No. But tell them what you know and document your underlying assumptions. Because we're all human beings. So I tell them that. Number two, when people ask me, Akin, what do you do? I said, I am one of the guys who come together typically to bring strategies to life. If you're a project professional, I know that everything that you are doing is, you may work in the strategy department, you may not. You may work in the operations department, you may not. But the bridge between strategy and operational reality is what? Projects. That's what we do. I help bring strategies to life. So I just want you all to, when you see yourself that way, you realize that you are not just pushing buttons on computers, you are actually a strategic partner. I think somebody mentioned that earlier today in this room. You are not just pushing buttons. And I want project controllers to get over that and see themselves as strategic partners. Whether your business or your leaders, whether they recognize you or not, see yourself that way. Start there. Somebody somewhere, somehow, whether within your organization or elsewhere, will recognize who you really are and they will embrace you. And you'll be the better for it. We'll talk briefly about the soft side of hard projects. We would also talk a little bit about why trust capital matters. We'll talk about the trust model, the integrated use cases, trust leadership ethics, and then conclusion. I always like to do conclusion and then go to Q&A before we come back and do a call to action. And I'm going to do the best that I can, but I know that I can't do this in 35 minutes, but we'll try. Now, with respect to the soft side of capital project, in mega projects, money builds infrastructure, but trust builds outcomes. I'll say that again. In mega projects, and I'm talking about any project that is over $1 billion, money builds infrastructure, but trust actually builds outcomes. Trust delivers value. How intensely are you focusing on value on your projects? Or do you just want to say, well, my client or my boss, they hired me to just do this and I'm going to just do it? No. Let's move away from the just mode and let's begin to work intentionally and deliver value. I have had a great run in my career, and I'm so grateful to those that God used to help me, to identify me when I didn't even know who I was. And they believed that I was going somewhere. And it's so more around working with people, creating a trusting environment. There are many people who know what I know, but there are not many people that can be trusted. And I'd like you to think about that as well. Can your boss, can your leaders, even can your team member or peers, can they trust you? Can they take your, I am going to do this to the bank? Trust. That's why we're here. And that's why I'm emphasizing on it. So this is not a technical session, as you all can tell. It's about the invisible factors that make or break billion-dollar ventures. So my purpose today, ladies and gentlemen, is to explore how trust, ethics, and leadership become critical levers in mega project success. I've got all kinds of stories, but I'm not going to weigh you down with that. Why Does trust capital actually matter? Mega projects, as we all know, they are high stakes and long horizons. I think Eric mentioned that earlier today. He had the opportunity of speaking twice. I don't know how he was able to do that, but he did it anyways. High stakes, long horizons. Trust, if I'm to define it, is that soft power that drives hard results. The invisible force that people don't actually see physically, but they actually drive results. Saying what you are going to do and doing what you say you will do, very important. When you make assumptions, documenting the assumptions so that people can see it in a transparent manner, very important. So there are various things that we do as project professionals that drive trust unconsciously or unknown to us. When trust fails, everything slows or collapses. Therefore, trust is not a nice to have. It is a business imperative. Think about that. It's not a nice to have. It's a business imperative. Whether I work in the community or at home, this is true. You may replace business with something else, but trust is not a nice to have in any setting. It is an imperative. Here are the elements of the trust model. Number one is transparency. I think I don't even need these glasses. So, in an attempt to try to introduce a simple framework to you all, I wanted to define trust in my own way. The first T there is transparency, which is clarity in reporting, no spin, no sugarcoating. Remember, there's not a time that a business will bring together a project controls team and will give them the authority to tell them lies. Your role is never to sugarcoat anything. Tell them as it is so that they can make decisions early. I was sharing with someone that took interest in me yesterday, a group of ladies. I said, there are two things that I do as a leader, or philosophies that drive me as a leader. Number one, I believe that early bad news are better than late bad surprises. Just think about that. Early bad news are better than late bad surprises. And the other thing too is that enabling people to actually understand where you have been, where you are, and where you are going with respect to whatever you are working together with them, I think is very important because it brings clarity to what you are thinking, and then they can advise you better. The second leadership philosophy that I hold so fast is this. If any of you should ask me, Akin, I need you to lead this team, there are three things I do, and I don't do one before, I do them in this order. When I get into that team, the mistakes many managers, not leaders, make is they start leading. Big mistake. You get in there, the first thing you did is listening. Listen, please. Because I'm not telling you what I read in books. I'm telling you everything about this presentation is about my life story. Listen, please. Hear what they are telling you. Hear what they are not telling you. Number two, learn. Learn. What can you learn from the people there? Because I've probably been doing this job. Sometimes, I remember when I was transferred to a team here in the US, one of the guys there, a white American, graduated the year I was born. I'm sure he knows something. Listen, learn, then you can lead. The three R's of leadership. That's one philosophy that drives me. And it works in any cultural environment. Again, remember, early bad news are better than late bad surprises. Number two, reliability. That's following through on commitments. No broken promises. You want to be trusted? whether as an individual or as a team. Follow through on commitments. No broken promises. But please always remember, life happens. Don't expect that life will not happen to you. It happens to everybody. But just let those that have trusted you with whatever assignment, let them know that, okay, I told you I would deliver it by noon tomorrow. Yeah, I just realized that I got a call from my sister who I'm looking after. She is taking a child to the hospital. I need to go meet her. So I might delay a little bit. I'm going to try through the night, but I might delay. Most people are empathetic. I know there are some, I don't want to say age, we call them, in the workplace. Some people call them, with they use a work starting with J, but I'm not going to go there. There are people like that, but the majority of the people would reason with you. They would understand with you. But of course, there are a few exceptions. Number 3, you is understanding. Cultural intelligence, empathy, and listening actively, as I said earlier. Not going to, again, I know this time is really going very fast. And then stewardship, which is protecting project purpose, not just contract compliance. And then the last one is truth under pressure. You will be under pressure. Don't try to sugarcoat it. But are you going to still be honest? Are you going to be truthful? There are some integrated use cases. Now, I'm supposed to be going to Q&A right now, and I'm far from that. But I'll try. Let me just toggle through this in the next 2-3 minutes. There was a particular project that was going to experience $40 million in overrun in the Gulf of Guinea. We achieved turning that project around just by reframing one risk. I'm not going to talk about the details, but just we identified one major risk that needed to be reframed, and that was all we had to do to save $40 million on one mega project in the Gulf of Guinea. We achieved that by leading through communication. We built trust fair framing by bringing everybody together. This is the issue. Let's talk about it. And then, of course, I believe through that experience that trusted leaders speak the language of what matters most, which is business outcomes. I tell people that strategic framing plus trust will lead you into decisive action. There's also one... I was asked to fly in from Santiago in Chile and in the mid-2000s to come and look at the project. Meanwhile, I'd asked the scheduler, I said, share the schedule with me in XER format. For 90 days, he refused. I got in there that Monday morning and I asked him the question. I said, imagine me being a world-class scheduler, project executive, and a business leader. This 75-page good-looking 11 by 17 schedule printed from Primavera. What should it mean to me? And he paused for about 10 seconds. He said nothing. They almost lynched him in that room. When you lie regarding what you are doing, you are not building trust. In fact, you are causing others to lose their jobs. Not just you not being trusted, you are causing a lot of other people to lose their jobs. So, oftentimes, trust is signed by what you reveal, not what you report. Yeah, that's the case study of a defective schedule. And trust grows when data is validated and when leaders are bold enough to surface inconvenient truths. So, transparency plus reward plus validation is what I call value protection. There's also another one in Europe. This one, they asked me to lead a project, and a board member just stood up and said, Akin, we got to reduce the dollars by 10%. I said, okay, thank you so much. I said, I'm going to go back to the team, and then we're going to reduce the scope by equal amount. They said no. I was actually taking up that project. 2 years later, after they had wasted a lot of money by hiring a wrong person, they lost so much money, and then they called me back. They said, Akin, I think we're still going to have to ask you to salvage this. Of course, as an obedient servant that I was, and still am, I had to respond to them and help them to look at it. And there are 5 things that I look for in any project, and in this order. People. We have the right people in the right number at the right time. Those three things very important. It starts there. Number two is scope. Do we know what we're building? What do we know? What don't we know? What are the risks around what we don't know? Number three, risks. The entire project. What are the risks to this investment? Number four, then we talk about schedule. Unfortunately, number five is what people ask for first, which is show me the money. That's the cost estimate. But that's what I talk about last. And I always ask board members, just be patient with me. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you the money, but you need to know the journey to get into the money. Very important. They may not believe you initially, they will trust you over time. So I'm just going to toggle through this now, and this is just another example that I've got to keep going here. One of the learnings on when there's a fallout of a broken trust is minor breach or breaches, even erode team morale and external trust. And then shortcuts, they have dire consequences. We all need to remember that. Here is my trust capital pyramid. Everything is built on transparency. And then when we leave what we talk about, cultural fluency, we want to be transparent. We're not just having it on the dashboards or notice board. We're actually living that. That's what I call cultural fluency. And then people will see our leaders as being ethical. And teams with high trust, they communicate better, they escalate faster, and course correct sooner. Here are the five levers of trust-centric leadership: communication, competence, consistency, courage, and care. Very important. You all will have access to these materials, so don't worry too much. And I also always ask people, and we're not going to be able to do that this afternoon, which is this question. Which lever do you lean on most and why? Which one do you need to grow or improve in? I just want you to think about it. We're not going to do that exercise in the interest of time. The good news is that there's no presentation after this one, so just don't worry. I know the videographer is going to be after me shortly. From the boardroom to the field, trust must cascade. And here is the message I have in here. When you ask anybody, when there's lack of trust, where does it typically break down? 99% of the time, people will say that middle one. That's where problem happens. The board may give a directive, but the leaders are not really allowing that to cascade down to the teams the way it should be. Or the field teams may tell the leaders, this is the reality. But the leadership, they say, no, I'm not going to go stand in front of the board and tell them that. So leadership is actually, like I was telling someone, it's like a sandwich. You know, in a sandwich, what defines what a sandwich is? The meat. The leadership is the meat. When you say, I want to have a tuna sandwich, it doesn't mean that the bread on top is tuna or the one below is tuna. It's the middle one. I want to have a ham or pastrami or whatever sandwich. I'm not a sandwich guy, so please pardon me. The determinant is the middle. So the leaders, they determine whether a team is in great shape or not. So transparent communication is very important. We need to be ethical in our decision making. And then we have 5 minutes left. And we need to empower our mid-level leaders. Building a trust culture in your mega project. I mean, there has to be daily alignment, hurdles, ethics centers, transparency. Again, leadership isn't about charisma. It's about creating predictability, safety, and space for integrity. So in conclusion, the question you should be asking yourself, whether you are a junior or a leader, says, what will they say when I'm not in the room? When I leave the room or the site or the boardroom or the company, what will they say about my leadership? Trust capital is built over time and can be lost in a moment. Therefore, guard it. Remember, project success, which in my world is a combination of project management success and product success. That is project success. Project success has transitioned from just being on time, on schedule to specification. The strategic project leadership today, they are looking at project management plus product success. That is project success. It's not just built with steel and schedules, but with trust and truth. Be a legacy builder today. I'm not going to talk about my legacy project. If you go to akione.com, you'll see some of my works there. And there's this particular book there, which is more of my autobiography. A little bit of that story I told at the front end, and then I weave some frameworks around it. And then I've got 2 other legacy projects that I'm working on. This one too is being developed in parallel, which is everything that you need to do before FID. Because close to 90% of projects, mega projects that fail, they actually failed before FID. They just didn't, they had no clue what they were signing off. But again, let's leave it there. And then, of course, I'm in chapter 5 for this functional excellence book, which is for operations and business executives. Again, talk to me. I will share all this information with you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Does anyone have any questions? I know I don't really have. Okay, Romeo, go for it. Just hold on. I think the mic is coming.
When you talk about trust being taken you serious, I'm going to use my own personal experience. I work on a project whereby my report reflect reality and I send it to my manager. But when it comes to when we are having general meeting, what my manager is going to alter what I sent to him, which is the reflection of reality, and present whatever he want to present. In a situation like that, how do you build your trust?
Okay, that's actually not as difficult as it seems. The only way to build trust is keep telling him as it is. Because the day you tell him the way it's not, when there are problems down the road, it's going to come after you. Or a lot more people will come after you. And again, don't get me wrong, you may work with a boss right now who is like an AH, like I said earlier. They will never listen to you. They will do what they want to do anyways. Just hope that somebody else will embrace who you are, what you know, and they will probably hire you out of that team, and you'll be better. I will never stand in front of anybody and tell you, oh, if your boss is an is an AH, and he will never listen to you, then just try to begin telling lies about your report. It's not good for anybody. Please, do your work uprightly. Be transparent. It's a matter of time before you realize that somebody else is watching, unknown to you. Yes, any other question? I need 1 more minute after this. Okay, real quick. I'm not going to ask all these other questions. That I have things for young professionals. I have for executives. And then one message, which is, and 3 invitations is this. Make trust your project's most protected asset. And for young professionals, start building trust early. Be reliable. Be curious and be clear. And for mid-career leaders, audit your leadership for silent integrity gaps. For senior executive, model trust visibly through difficult decisions and transparent governance. Invest in psychological safety. You know, psychological safety is actually like a 2-hour presentation on its own. And I'm not going to go there. So if there's one thing I've learned is that trust isn't just a virtue. It's a deliverable. Let's all be carriers of it every day in every role. Trust capital is earned daily. And I encourage you to start today. Here are my 2 parting shots. You all will have read this on LinkedIn because Project Control Expo actually published this with my photo on it. And I'm not going to, but you can go to akione.com, you see it there. But here is my growth mindset framework. Be driven, be courageous, and be adaptable. And on a final note, this is the most important one. I'd like you all to read it for 30 seconds. Need I say more? Thank you very much. And I speak for a living, by the way. So if you need me to come talk to your people, and I get that a lot these days. So let me know. If you go to akione.com, there's a speaker tab. Just complete that form. Tell me that you are here, and I'll make sure I respond to whatever it is that you need. Thank you all so very much, guys.